This is, I think, by my count, episode 28 of the little interview show I've been doing over Zoom and IGTV since quarantine started. Didn't know it was gonna go on this long.
That's great. That's quite a body of work.
It's fun, yeah. It has turned into fun, and I am pleased to have one of my all-time favorite songwriters, and you know this, Ben Nichols, on the show. Thanks for doing this. This is a real pleasure for me, as you know.
Man, thanks for having me.
We'll talk obviously about the record in detail, but when I started doing these, it was sort of because there were a lot of people early on in quarantine that either had to cancel tour plans or were trying to do shit to stay busy. Now we've sort of all like stumbled into patterns. It's been 9 or 10 months or whatever it is.
Right.
But back in the early days of quarantine, you guys have sort of an interesting perspective because you wound tour down right as essentially like society closed down, basically, right?
Yeah, we got real lucky. Yeah, I think our last show was in Atlanta around the 7th of March. And I was just thinking back to that weekend. We did 2 nights in a row in Atlanta, and we'd heard of COVID-19, we'd heard of coronavirus, but it was still, there was a couple of cases in Seattle, maybe one in San Francisco, and nobody was talking about it like they did just a week later. Then a week later, it was lockdown.
Yeah.
So we got very lucky that our tour just happened to end right when lockdown occurred. So if it would have been the other way around where we were about to leave on tour, man, I'm not exactly sure what we would have done, because the bank account would have been empty and we would have been, about to make some money.
Right.
That's exactly the spot that a lot of bands got caught in.
Right.
They were just about to leave on tour. So yeah, that was for Lucero, we got lucky. We had a little bit of money to kind of coast on for a while. And then that might be why we didn't do a actual live stream internet show until the summertime. We kind of spent time quarantining and figuring out what to do, but we weren't under quite as much pressure to get online and try to sell virtual tickets. Like some other folks just had no other choice but to do that. And here we are. We're about to do another. I think on the 19th, we're doing another internet stream event.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one because it's at Sam Phillips.
It is at Sam Phillips. And this one we're recording it in advance. The others have been actually live. Just with the internet situation at Sam Phillips and different other things, it's pre-recorded. But I've got to warn everybody that it's not like we spent a lot of time and we're able to edit it or anything. Right. So it's still basically live. There's going to be a lot of it's going to be just as rough around the edges as we usually are. We didn't have a chance to polish anything really. So but yeah, that'll be next week. And I'm not sure when that'll change. I'm assuming we'll probably do another internet streaming event early next year. We're looking into maybe doing some outdoor venues and things in the spring. Yeah. But that's still months away. So we're kind of playing it by ear. We're not sure exactly what our plans are.
Yeah, thinking back to your tour specifically, I remember when you guys were in, I think the last time I saw you was probably Providence on that tour. And Jade Jackson was really sick. Like she had the flu or she came out.
Yeah, that was a rough night for her.
And we knew so little about coronavirus. It didn't even dawn on me that, oh my God, I wonder if she's like that
I
sick.
think that was just regular touring in the winter, regular sickness. Just singing every night. And it seems like I got bronchitis every winter, especially when I was still smoking. If I was on tour, I was going to get sick. Just because I wasn't taking very good care of myself. And I don't know, it seems like it's easy to get bronchitis in those kind of situations. So I think, she was just having the regular tour sickness.
Yeah, I mean, now if you see somebody that's coughing or that has
you're like, oh man, they've got COVID.
They've got COVID. We got quarantined. Back then, it's like, oh, that's too bad. She'll bounce.
Yeah, and everybody's just right up front. And gosh, I think about when I'm singing and the crowd's just right there on top of me, and there's water particles going everywhere. It's disgusting when you think about it too much. Yeah. I had no idea that, you hear stories about pandemics and there's movies about pandemics, but it never crossed my mind that, oh, wait, my industry, the bar industry and the music venue industry is actually we're the ones that are going to be affected the most, actually.
Right. Yep.
Like healthcare workers and us. Hospitals will be overrun and venues will just be non-existent because what we do is close quarters.
Right.
And it never dawned on me how susceptible our industry was to something like this. It's really terrifying, actually.
And actually, in this specific part of the music industry, I think too. I mean, the sort of
smaller bands,
punk rock inspired thing
for
where
sure.
Everybody's together, everybody's drinking, singing along together, hugging and whatever. And you can't go to it would be weird to go to a Lucero show that was socially distanced, seated down inside.
And I'm afraid that's kind of how 2021 is going to be, just because we're not going to have a choice for a while. And so we'll see. We might do some larger indoor venues that are socially distanced somehow, or we'll do outdoor stuff where I guess they call them pod shows or something, I guess, where you just got like a little pod kind of blocked off, which we haven't done any of that. And I don't know when, that's kind of a conversation we have to have amongst ourselves in the band. I don't know when the guys are going to feel comfortable, even just getting in a van or a tour bus together, much less, being backstage or around other bands or however they set them up. I'm sure everybody will do it as safe as possible, but I'm not sure when we'll be ready to take that step. We'll see.
The night of one of the nights of virtual block party back in September, I was toying with the idea before you guys had actually announced your thing. Dinosaur Jr. was doing an outdoor show. It was a drive-in pod style show up in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire, but it just happens to be that my family has a cottage down the street from this little middle of nowhere place in New Hampshire.
Really?
And wow, I kind of really want to go to that. Because Dinosaur Jr. is cool, and it's outdoors, and I know the area. And then block party happened. As well. Okay, I like Junior, but
I like to think we kept you safe.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, by the way.
You're welcome. You can. That's just us doing our duty and keeping you locked down a little bit longer.
As much as I like Dinosaur Jr. in rural New Hampshire, I like my couch better.
There's pluses to viewing stuff from home for sure.
But I do think that that's sort of probably the best we'll get, at least next year, is sort of venues like that. It seems like it goes okay. I know of people, you're kind of far away, but otherwise I know of people that seem to enjoy those experiences when they go. And
I think it's a logical kind of next step. Yeah. So, we're looking into that. And like I said, we'll just play it by ear, but we are planning on doing some kind of actual road traveling and work next year at some point.
Do you think the live stream thing will stay around, even though people will get back to it? It has been sort of a neat idea to be able to sit on your couch and spend $10 or $15 and
it's
watch
great.
one of your favorite bands, even if you're on tour.
Yeah, and I think once Lucero, if we can ever go back to normal or as close to normal as we can get, where we're doing 100 or 150 shows a year. Yeah, I think now it's like, it's a no-brainer. It's like, let's, once or twice a year, you do a live stream event. And that way, folks from everywhere can tune in. And it is kind of an equalizing thing. In different time zones, folks can watch it whenever they want to. And so you got people from Australia or England or Germany or wherever. So folks from anywhere can watch it. And that's the beauty of it, I think. They are actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
So that's something we probably never would have done unless we were forced to. But now, I think once things go back to normal, it'll remain part of our routine from year to year, probably.
I hope so. I mean, granted, I'll still go to as many shows as I can, but
for sure, of course. Hopefully, people will be in the mood to get back and attend shows again. I know I'll be in the mood to get back into bars.
9 months. I think 9 months today maybe was the last show that I went to.
All right.
And then I was supposed to go to a show 9 months tomorrow, which would have been Dave Hawes's birthday show. He was doing a show here in Boston.
Oh man.
And he played in Brooklyn the night before, and kind of got, I think, halfway up and was like, yeah, things are kind of too sketchy.
That
was the day it started to actually close down. And then by the following day, everything was done.
Everything's just shut. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'll be ready. I'll be ready to hit the road again once it's safe, for sure. I miss my bars. I miss traveling. I miss eating in different restaurants, my favorite restaurants, all across the country, and seeing my favorite bartenders in different bars all across the country, and running into fans. And I mean, I spent most of my time over the last 10 years kind of complaining that I don't get to be home and see my family enough.
Right.
And now that's not a problem. Now I miss my restaurants and my bartenders, and so it seems to be feast or famine. But
and frankly, hopefully a lot of those places are still going to be somewhat functional.
Gosh, I hope so. And I'm trying to figure out, I don't know, like I filmed a little set for the, they're calling it the Holiday Hang In There, that they're doing at Whitewater Tavern in Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah. Or for Whitewater Tavern. Everybody's just kind of sending in sets. But yeah, that place. And then I heard, you hear every day, it seems like you hear different places either gone or about to be gone. Like I heard Slim's in San Francisco might be closed for good.
I've heard that.
I really want to figure out if I can do something. Maybe I can go up to the Grog Shop in Cleveland and do some kind of live stream from there. I would, that place, since I'm in Northeast Ohio so much now, that was a place we've always played in the old days that I know that they're struggling. So I need to figure out how to check in with them. But I hope most places survive.
I think we're up to 9 venues maybe in Boston.
Really?
That are done. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm hoping that even the places that are done, I don't know how it, I mean, in my kind of naive, optimistic, I don't know, in the back of my brain, I'm like, well, hopefully somebody will help them get started up against once we can. Yeah. Maybe some of those will come back, but I have no idea.
Fingers crossed, especially the smaller ones. The Live Nation venues are going to be all right.
Yeah, and that'll be there, but obviously you don't want to just be stuck with only that. You want the independent stuff too, for sure.
In fact, I think
we'll see.
They're actively building a new Live Nation venue right down by House of Blues in Boston, like behind Fenway Park. So they'll have that whole area now.
Man, oh man, yeah, and I don't know. Lucero kind of got to that point where, I don't know, we're kind of in between. We're not big enough for a lot of Live Nation venues, but then we're a little too big for some of the smaller independent venues.
Right.
And I don't know, it's kind of a tough line to walk sometimes for us. But yeah, when the whole pandemic's over, we'll do anything we can do.
400 shows the first year, just
man, we'll see. Yeah, it might be.
Break the rust off 2-a-days. Let's talk about the new album. I want to try to talk about it in a little bit of detail without giving any spoilers to people that haven't heard it yet. People that haven't had it on repeat for the last month, like myself.
I'm glad you got a copy of it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a Lucero album again, but it's sounds different.
It's got some different elements to it for sure. And I mean, the most obvious one is the use of synthesizers on there. Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess we weren't satisfied throwing everybody for a loop with the horn section. And so just by the time everybody got used to that, then we throw them for a loop with using some old synthesizers.
Was that the plan when you were writing it, or did that happen more sort of in the studio? Or
no, this one was kind of written from that perspective. A lot of those songs were based around things I'd just been messing around with on my own. So I was using a lot of just like garage band sounds and weird stuff. I was actually trying to do some kind of movie soundtrack sounding things that I'd make my little brother listen to. And I was experimenting with that. And some of these songs kind of evolved out of those chord progressions and some of those sounds. In fact, there's a few garage band sounds that we just, that we used actually on the record. We didn't reinvent them in the studio. We just grabbed them straight out of garage band.
Really?
And slapped them on there. Just a couple.
Yeah.
And that's something we'd never done before. Maybe a couple of things on Among the Ghosts. I remember when Matt Rossbang was the producer, when he was open to that, I was like, you'll let me just take the garage band sound from the demo and put it on the real record? And he's like, yeah, man, it sounds good. I don't know how else to get it. I'm like, let's do it. And so that, I think we did that on I'm not sure what song. Maybe Among the Ghosts, the song has some garage band sounds on there. So once I knew that was an option, then I started to let myself kind of explore a little more. And
I was going to say, does that sort of change the scope of songwriting for you when you know what you're more
a little
capable
bit,
of? Yeah,
for sure. It was kind of like when Rick Steff first joined the band, and just having the keyboards and the piano, and knowing that I could write songs that do kind of venture further out, and are a little more ambitious. Things like I couldn't have written the old song I Can Get Us Out of Here Tonight, which is very piano heavy, and I just couldn't have really written that if Rick hadn't joined the band at that time. And so it's fun incorporating those new elements and kind of getting to see how far you can go. And like you said, it's still a Lucero record, 100%. But it was fun to push some things a little further with those kind of weird retro sounds.
I know Brian had joked a little bit about that. There's some Miami Vice shit on
100%.
it, and I remember thinking I can't picture that. But even
you're like, what is Miami Vice and Lucero going to sound like?
Yeah. But you know what?
It is.
Even the first, Outrun the Moon, the sort of verse, the way that's paced, and the synthesizer in the background, I'm like, you know what? This is kind of like you should be in an old T-top with a white seersucker, like in the top down, and
there's a little bit of Michael Mann type stuff in there. I'm a big fan of his movies and his his choice of songs and soundtrack stuff. He uses a lot of Tangerine Dream in his movies, and and I love that stuff. And I've always loved that stuff. And just never really had an opportunity to really follow that kind of follow that path before.
Yeah.
And finally, I'm not sure if it was I don't know. It seems like every record we kind of find some kind of little thing to add to the sound, or a new direction to go. Every record, obviously, you've heard a bunch of them. Every record is kind of different in its own way. And it was nice to go this direction with this record. Who knows with the next one? The next one might be stripped down as bare bones as it can be. Who knows? But yeah, I like all those kind of 80s sounds, and it's the stuff I grew up on. The radio from that time is I rebelled against it kind of, but I still heard it every day in the car. Whether it was, something from, you mentioned Outrun the Moon. I hear kind of almost a ZZ Top Eliminator type sound on Outrun the Moon. That's kind of what's in my head. That was one of the things I had in mind when we were kind of making the sounds for that song. But yeah, just that, I don't know. I wanted to harken back to that era for sure without making a retro record. Yeah. I just wanted to, I don't know, use some of those elements.
It's not a Rush record. It's still a Lucero record.
And it's not exactly. It's definitely a Lucero record for sure. The songwriting, I think, I don't know. The songwriting's always it's the trickiest part, obviously, is having lyrics that are worth singing. And having written so many songs, I'm pretty sure every record I write is like the last record, and then I'm tapped out. I'm just done. There's no more There's nothing left in the well. But then you stumble across I don't know, you stumble across something like the song When You Found Me, or even the first song on the record, Have You Lost Your Way. Nobody's heard that yet.
That song is badass. Yeah.
Man, they won't hear that until it comes out. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that nobody hears the first song on the album until the full thing comes out.
Yeah.
I think it's a great introduction to the record. It's going to catch people off guard.
Totally.
But just that lyric itself, the little darling, have you lost your way? I'm like, ooh, oh, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
But I like it. And so you find, at least so far, I found little things here and there to kind of build on. And luckily the well's not completely dry.
And there's backing vocals on that song.
It's just me.
Well, right.
But yeah, I layered a lot of vocals.
But the first time I heard it, I think I was making dinner in my kitchen. That's where I listen to a lot of music, is when I'm making dinner. And
for sure.
I went, whoa, like it's noticeable. Whoa, that's really
yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
And there's layered vocals, and then there's kind of there's some vocal effects. There's a vocal doubler that we use on some stuff. So there's a vocal doubler, and then I'll do that a couple of times. And so, yeah, you get this kind of thick, layered, I don't know. It's definitely an affected vocal sound. And it's used to varying degrees throughout the record. But that's another thing I just had a whole lot of fun with. And that'll be an issue of a point of contention between certain Lucero fans and listeners. It'll rub some folks wrong. And then some people won't even notice it. And then there'll be a lot of in between. But I don't know. I definitely wanted a particular vocal sound to kind of be paired with the other, those other sounds on the record. I wanted something that would match it. I didn't want it to just sound like, I don't know, the voice from whatever past record just being kind of glued on top of this weird, different sounding Lucero record. I wanted the vocals to match the sound of the record.
It's almost haunting in that little.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to people hearing that one. I'm curious to see what they say. But yeah, I guess we've released Outrun the Moon. That was kind of the first one that everybody really got a good dose of. And then When You Found Me, which is a more kind of traditional Lucero song in a way.
Yeah.
But
I think people have heard Coffin Nails probably from you.
And then Coffin Nails, we played that a bunch live. Yep. And that's pretty straightforward too. It sounds on the record it sounds a lot like it sounds live. Yeah. So they've got a pretty good idea of what Coffin Nails sounds like. But then there's a few more surprises on the record for sure.
City on Fire, like that.
That's a big one. Yeah.
That last third, I think, of City on Fire, that outro, that could go on, as far as I'm concerned, for half an hour.
I like that.
It's just like, it's big and it's plotting. It's this massive sort of sound.
It's only like a minute and 15 seconds or something. But at the time we were recording it, I was like, oh my God, this is like 5 minutes long. This is nobody's going to listen to this. But then you actually go back and you're like, oh, maybe it's a minute and a half. It's not like, that's not that long. But for Lucero, that's a pretty long jam kind of section. So yeah, we kind of ventured that direction a little bit too. Yeah, that was one of the last songs to really kind of come together. And I wasn't sure where to take it. Originally, I just had more, I was like, all right, it'll just do that section. That'll be a bridge. And then it'll go back and do the verse again and maybe a couple of choruses and you're done. But then that part was so cool. I was kind of like you. I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just play this part for the rest of the song.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm glad we did that. It came out kind of cool. And I think live, we haven't really gone back and relearned it to how we're going to do it live yet. But I think once we figure it out, it'll be a really cool song live to play.
It seems like a song that would be pretty straightforward to do live, the way that it's
I think so.
There's nothing that jumps out at me in terms of effects or whatever. It's just the way that the whole song builds and then builds, and it's how to build it. Like, do you take some stuff away when that part starts and then add it back in as it kind of goes? You might even extend it and play it longer, or have it kind of do a breakdown almost, to where it builds and builds and then goes real tiny and then comes back extra big. Like there's fun things you could do with it, which Lucero doesn't necessarily do a lot of that, but
that's one of those songs that's kind of built to, it could actually expand in a live setting.
Yeah, almost like Here at the Starlight or something. The way that
For sure.
that sort of jam section.
Yep, and maybe even making it even longer than it is on the record, even.
Yeah.
And yeah, other real bands do that kind of thing. I've heard tale of people doing that. So yeah, we'll see.
Did you wrote a lot of this album ahead of time before going to the studio, which is sort of the opposite of the way that Among the Ghosts went, really, wasn't it? Is that mostly because of being at home during quarantine? And
I think so. Like I'd already, like I said, I was just kind of messing around with cinematic kind of soundtrack stuff and just sounds that I liked, kind of in my spare time. But then when it came time to really focus on a new Lucero record, we were quarantined. And so with Among the Ghosts, we went into the studio really with nothing, no demos, no rehearsals, nothing. I had a couple of guitar parts. And so we just kind of started playing, and it took a long time. We'd record for a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there. And kind of over the course of a year, just kind of in and out of the studio, we kind of compiled Among the Ghosts, which is great for lyrics because it gave me plenty of time to try to get the lyrics right. And that is trickier with When You Found Me. It was a more compressed time frame for lyric writing. But
do you wait till all the music is done? Yeah. Do you wait till all the music is done to write the lyrics?
Not necessarily done, but usually I have the framework of the song. I've got the guitar parts. I know kind of where everything's going to go. And usually know the vocal melody. Although sometimes I'll go back and forth and I'll have the music track and I'll just listen to it in the car driving around and I'll try to sing, 5 different ways.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, that's like that vocal pattern works, but I know I could, there's something out there that I'm searching for. And I think I've gotten maybe more creative with the vocal patterns over the last couple of records. Just because in the old days I would just play the part and the first thing I sang, that's how you sing the song. Yeah. And now I'm actually thinking about it, or trying to think about it more as kind of a composition. That sounds silly, but
no, not at all. You're a songwriter. It's a composition.
Man, but like Among the Ghosts, that song, I had a completely different way of singing that, and it was good. The part was so good. The guitar part I liked so much, and it just had this kind of regular vocal pattern. It took me 3 or 4 different vocal patterns to find that right one. And there's a few songs like that on the new record as well, where it took a little bit to find them, but in the end, I'm real happy with where everything ended up.
You recorded again at Sam Phillips' studio.
Yeah.
How that's got to be a cool thing. Where maybe for Among the Ghosts, were Knox and Jerry around at all? I just finished reading that big ass Sam Phillips book.
Yeah.
that Girl Nick wrote, which is awesome. It is
It's
dense. Yeah. It's a little exhausting at parts because it just goes, but it's
so detailed.
Really, really good. But were they around, especially during, I know Knox just passed away, but during the first one at least, or?
Yeah, there's other family members that are part of the business and that work there. But Jerry, Sam's other son, he's in and out all the time. Rick's recorded some stuff with him in the past. He'll record songs sometimes. He'll produce songs sometimes. And he's quite a character. He's really friendly and really nice to us. But he would just kind of poke his head in every now and again just to listen to some songs and see how things were going, see what was rocking.
It's got to be a little bit surreal as a Memphis band. You know what I mean? For me,
it's definitely surreal. Just coming from Arkansas.
Yeah.
For Rick and John C. and some of the other guys, it's just Memphis, and they've been around it forever. So, but yeah, just being at Sam Phillips is still kind of mind-boggling for me. It is a cool place, and yeah, I'm glad that with the live stream we're going to do for the Christmas show, you get to see a lot of the studio. I haven't seen the footage. We actually just filmed it last night, so I haven't seen it or heard it.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of recovering from it. but but it's definitely a different vibe than the last 2 live streams we did from Minglewood. You're in a studio and not a venue.
Yeah.
And it kind of affects the way we play. I'm afraid that you're going to be able to hear the mistakes even more. The mistakes will be even more obvious just because we're in such a, not a pristine environment exactly, but you're in a recording studio, and I think we'll see. I'm curious to see what folks think about the set list for this Christmas live stream. We dug deeper into the catalog and relearned a lot of things that we hadn't played in a while. So even with the hiccups and the mistakes, I think people will still enjoy it just because it's stuff they don't get to hear all the time.
So I was going to say, you have to actually go in with a set list in mind, which is
for this,
sort of
definitely
atypical of normal Lucero. And I know last time people got to vote, but
yeah, last time there was the vote, and we did that section or that night of just requests. But that's still not the same as just walking up on stage and basically saying, "What do you want to hear?" And we've done those shows. Some of them worked well, some of them didn't work as well. But where you just kind of go with the flow of whatever the loudest person in the audience wants to hear.
Yeah. Which it's always bike riders. But
and yeah, we didn't do bike riders in this live stream, but we did another bike rider based song.
Okay.
Johnny Davis actually is
Oh,
he was the guy that founded the Outlaws in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so there's photographs of him in the Bike Riders book that song's based on. And so Johnny Davis has his own song. So we dug that out of the.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
No, it's been a long time. And so there's a few other things like that we kind of dusted off and relearned. So it was a fun show for us. It just it was a little nerve-wracking just because we were playing stuff we didn't know very well or hadn't played in a while, and we were doing it in Sam Phillips, and so it just felt, I don't know, it wasn't pressure exactly, but I don't know, there's something about going into a studio, it makes you want to get it right, and you're listening more for those mistakes, and hopefully they'll blend in and everything, it'll just be a regular Lucero show.
I'm looking forward to that now, especially.
Good.
1372 has always been sort of like, I've talked about this with a bunch of other people, but sort of what your favorite Lucero album is typically tends to align with like when you found the band.
I think that makes perfect sense. And yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I certainly knew of Lucero before 1372, but for whatever reason, that's the one that like, I went, oh shit, I get it now. Like,
right. Well, that's cool.
And I know, because I feel like Lucero is a band that had been around forever at that point. I just always knew of you. And then 1372 came out, and I was like, oh, like I really like this band. Now I need to go pay more attention to the old.
And that was a big shift for us. We learned a whole lot on that record. That was our first record with Ted Hutt producing. So we'd worked with Jim Dickinson had produced a record, Nobody's Darlings, and David Lowery from Cracker had produced a record, Rebels and Rogues.
Yep.
And then Luther and Cody Dickinson had kind of functioned as producers on some of the early stuff, but not in the way that Ted Hutt produced. Ted Hutt was a very hands-on, very involved producer, from the songwriting to the instrumentation to the arrangements, just the whole 9 yards, which I thought I was going to hate that, but I ended up loving it. I really liked having, even if it was an argument, I loved having someone who actually cared enough to have that argument, cared enough about the song to have that argument and fight for his opinion. The guys in the band would have their opinions, and we'd, have to hash stuff out. But having Ted kind of have this different perspective, this kind of outside perspective, kind of above everything, looking down on the song. Having that kind of perspective was something we'd never really had before. And so everybody in the band learned a whole lot, just about songwriting and kind of how the instruments fit together. And I don't know, there was tears, there was laughter, there was crying, there was breakdowns, he put us through the ringer, but I think we came out better band for it, for sure.
But I think that album is also a little bit polarizing for some people who've been around since Tennessee or since Nobody's
the
Darlings.
horns.
Yeah. It's even more than that. I think the way that the songs are structured is a little
probably
different.
And
it's not just drinking songs. You know what I mean?
Right. It's a different production quality. We were aiming higher on that one. We were trying to kind of break out of, really personally myself, Rick had only been around for the one record before, Rebels Rogues, and then it had been a number of years between Rebels and Rogues and 1372. So I don't know. I think personally I'd reached a point where I was kind of feeling like we'd done everything we could do with this particular sound that we had. There was only so much drinking ourselves to death every night. And there was only so many songs you could write about drinking yourself to death every night. And I don't know. I think I'd kind of reached the end of that road. And so really having Ted Hutt come on board and really kind of push us to aim higher and really kind of go for it and incorporate new things like horns. That wasn't his idea, but he ran with it and loved it. And he really embraced that and kind of pushed us further with the horns. So yeah, just that record became, like you said, a little controversial for some folks who were attached to our old sound, but I think it broadened our fan base and it broadened our just horizons as a band. I think it was an important step to take. I think if we wouldn't have taken that step, I'm not sure if we would have made another record after it, to tell you the truth. We might have just kind of gone our separate ways.
Obviously, I'm glad you made that one. My daughter tends to poke her head in.
Of course.
Oh, come here. You can say hi.
Hi, good to see you. How are you doing? Okay. Are you having to do like online school today or something? Yeah.
3 days a week they get to do online school. 2 days in school, 3 days out of school. It's normal now. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
Hi.
Well, thanks for saying hi.
Yes, thanks for saying hi. Okay, bye. She likes poking her head in when I'm.
No, that's awesome. If I'm in Memphis right now. But if I was in Ohio, I'm sure Izzy would be making an appearance as well.
It's fun that way.
Of course.
Shit, that broke my train of thought. I had a
1372.
Like, or it was actually more.
And we might not make another record after that if it wouldn't have been for kind of those steps that Ted helped us take.
It was actually more of a fan base related question, but because of sort of, I guess the most direct way to ask the question is, when did you realize that Lucero had become a thing outside of Memphis, Arkansas, whatever?
Right.
Like when you realized that there was a bigger scene out there, that people were getting L-Star tattoos, and you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, when did you realize that it had transcended to this? Because your fan base is rabid.
We're very lucky that we don't have the biggest fan base.
Right.
But the fan base we do have is very loyal, and it really kind of takes. They make it their own in a way that is, it means a whole lot to us. So there had been kind of pockets of that really since we started touring. It might just be that one fan in Boston. I'm in Boston. There was a couple of girls that they were their first like 3 or 4 shows in Boston, and they were kind of they were our audience in Boston. That's who we saw in Boston. And you'd have a handful of kids, wherever in San Francisco or all over the place. There were these small little groups of folks that somehow found us and just kind of got on board right away. And so it was always, that was always really cool. And it kind of kept us going. But then, after 1372, I guess maybe 10 years ago, it started to feel like, I don't know, that you could actually see the growth happening a little bit quicker. We did things like we opened for Social Distortion for like 3 months, I
I
think.
remember that. Yeah.
In maybe 2009, sometime around then. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. And so doing things like that kind of helped us grow a little bit quicker as well. It's kind of like we'd been slowly growing, but then yeah, you're right. It kind of hit a certain point where things kind of started to snowball a little bit and build. And I would say that's about the time at the 1372 record. But then still, you've got, most of the crowd is still shouting requests from Tennessee most of the time.
Right.
But then Nobody's Darlings has a lot of requests on it, and That Much for the West has a lot of requests that people shout. So I don't know. We've been lucky enough to where usually there's songs from every record that do get yelled out at the live shows still. So
I was glad that Smoke kind of made its way back into the
Smoke is
thing
back
the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that really has to do with getting a little bit healthier and being able to sing a little bit more. I just smoking and drinking and late nights definitely took a toll on the voice, and not a good way. It's funny, you'll read comments online where people are like, his voice doesn't sound as good as it did when he was smoking and killing himself. And I just know for a fact that that's just not true.
Yeah, right.
The voice sounded really crappy a lot of nights, especially out on the road. There were some nights where it just didn't work the way it should. And it's much more enjoyable to sing now. And so yeah, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but
is that why you stopped smoking?
I can sing Smoke now, which I couldn't for a while. Is
that why you stopped smoking? Because of a performance thing or a family thing?
Yeah,
or kind of
and a family thing. Having a kid and getting married. It just made I've got having a reason to stick around a little bit longer,
Right.
Before I didn't really, I don't know, I never really thought about it. But yeah, I'd like to see Izzy grow up and be I'd like to see her get as old as possible. So I'm not,
Yeah, they're pretty cool when they get older.
I know, it gets more and more fun. And so yeah, I'm not like the healthiest guy on the planet or anything, but I did quit smoking.
She'll be 13 in a couple of weeks, and we're still not at the point where she hates us yet, which I guess is like
that's awesome.
The stage, but we've made it through 12.
I don't know. I think you might get lucky, and you might not ever have to get to that stage. I'm hoping to avoid it myself. Izzy's kind of my best friend, so yeah, it'll be heartbreaking if she ever rejects me.
Yeah, I think we're, knock on wood, I think we're doing okay.
Well, good, excellent.
Thanks for doing this. I don't want to take up too much of your afternoon. I want to make sure that this saves correctly. Oh, the other thing, you did the lyric videos for the first couple of songs.
Oh, yeah.
That's been a cool
was really
thing.
Fun.
Yeah. Was that your idea just out of like quarantine boredom or?
Kind of, yeah. And last Christmas, I bought myself a Christmas present. I splurged on an iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil.
Okay.
And I just because I'd always liked drawing, and I always thought I would one day like to do a graphic novel or something. And that's still on the wish list of things to do. But I got the iPad, and it's really fun to draw on. And the Apple Pencil's awesome, and I love there's different drawing programs and stuff, and they make it's just super fun to use. Because I was never gonna learn Photoshop on the computer. Like it's too labor intensive for me. I'm not gonna learn all the keyboard shortcuts and like Pro Tools. I'm never learning how to use Pro Tools.
Right.
GarageBand, I can do GarageBand.
Right.
And that's fine. But the iPad came along with the pencil. I'm like, ooh, I can do what people do in Photoshop, but I can just do it like this. And so really that kind of allowed me to put something together, kind of like those lyric videos. The next single, I'm not sure if they've announced what the next single is going to be.
I haven't heard anything, if that means
I'm going to try to do, we'll see. For When You Found Me is pretty much just, I wrote out the lyrics.
Yeah.
Outrun the Moon, there was actually a little bit of like very simple animation in there.
Yep.
Maybe the next song will be somewhere in between. I'd like to, it's tricky. It's it's almost like writing lyrics. Finding visuals that actually pair nicely with the lyrics is tough. I tried to draw some more stuff for When You Found Me, but it just made it it was too cheesy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a whole new thing. Maybe we'll do more of that in the future, but
Well, a couple of the story songs sort of lend themselves to
exactly
whether it's Back in Ohio or whether it's The Match. I think, although Back in Ohio is going to be a movie essentially, isn't it? Like that story.
Maybe, yeah.
I've seen your brother's name attached to that, and
that's is that announced?
It's on Wikipedia and stuff like that.
Awesome, man.
Adam
if
Driver.
he ever gets if they ever, it's kind of like us. If they ever get out of quarantine and can start making movies again. But yeah, he talked to Adam Driver about playing the lead role in that.
That's what's on Wikipedia anyway.
All right.
Or actually, it's Variety, so it's like an official Hollywood magazine.
Yeah. It's based on an Ohio guy, and I'd heard the story. His name was William Morgan.
Yeah.
And he ended up going down and fighting in the Cuban Revolution, and he was a very idealistic guy, weird, kind of interesting character.
That's a fascinating story.
It's a fascinating story, and I feel bad because I kind of I went through and kind of cherry picked little elements of it and made this. In my mind, I wanted something like "Lawyers, Guns, and Money," the Warren Zevon song.
Yeah.
I wanted like kind of that '80s mercenary South American kind of weird whatever rock and roll song that there were a few of those in the 80s.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was mining that story for, when in reality it's a much more fascinating story. It's much more involved. His whole life is his whole character is worth looking at closer. And then that's what Jeff Nichols would do in a film.
Yeah.
I wrote the cheesy rock and roll song version of it, but he's actually got a really good script that I've read, and we'll see. It might get made. It might. Well, who knows with the world the way it is now, but it would be cool if he finished it.
I'm glad you said Warren Zevon, because I take notes when I listen to an album that I'm really paying attention to. Right. I take notes the first time I listen, and you probably can't see it, but
Warren right Zevon, there.
Yeah, for that song.
Is that on that song?
Yeah, and for Back in
that.
I said, it says this could be, it sounds like the Hold Steady or Warren Zevon got together.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I was going for. I'm glad we're on the same wavelength. That's excellent.
That's weird. Yeah.
But yeah, it was totally that kind of vibe that I wanted to kind of shoot for with that song. So excellent.
Seems like you got it.
Excellent.
Thanks for doing this. Like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your afternoon. Album's out January 29th. I think like
so.
That, which
seems like a long ways away, but it's right around
next month. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll release. I think it's actually Back in Ohio is the next single they're going to release in early January, and then they might, when the record comes out, they might push one more song. I'm kind of hoping that it's "Pull Me Close, Don't Let Go."
I like that song.
It's such a unique sounding song. But yeah, people will be able to hear the whole thing January 29th.
There are a couple of songs, you do it on every album, but there are a couple of songs where it kind of makes you think, wow, how did he write what was going on inside my head? Like, I think that's one of the things that makes you probably one of my favorite songwriters ever, is that you have this ability to write what might be your situation, but in a way that makes it accessible to everybody, so that we all go, yeah, you know what? I know he didn't write that about me, but I feel like he wrote that about me.
Oh, good. It's good to know that I'm not alone in all this stuff. And so yeah, I like hearing stuff like that. I like knowing that it makes sense to people and people can actually relate to it. That's a good thing. I appreciate it.
We will see you, I guess, at Sam Phillips next Saturday.
All right.
That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to
seeing
inside Sam Phillips.
It's cool. It's a really cool spot. And so yeah, thanks for sticking with us, man.
Absolutely.
And, thanks for talking to me today.
It's been my pleasure.